traced, or their roots can be traced to that particular region, which is why perhaps the party seems to have a foothold in that region. But for most Akan-speaking areas, that is what we've come to know, or that is what we've discovered, that most of them seem to have that soft spot for the regional governing New Patriotic Party as compared to other regions so far as Ghana is concerned. Initially we were 10, but now we are 16. But trust you, when we head to December 7, 2024, the narrative won't change. I don't see the narrative changing. If the narrative will change, perhaps I expect that maybe in the central region, which happens to be one of the few swing regions in the country, but from the Ashanti and Eastern regions, I'm not sure the narrative will change. And in some parts of the Volta region as well, I'm not sure the narrative is going to change, because that is also deemed as a World Bank of the opposition NDC.
Right. If you're just joining us, this is Election Focus, your favorite election program that is showing live here on Pan-African Television, 48 Swanika Street. Today, our focus is on the eastern region of Ghana. The eastern region of Ghana, just above the Greater Accra region, and also I think it quite extends to above the central region. These are some of the bordering or the regions that border the eastern region. So we have the Greater Accra, we have the central region, we have the Ashanti region, I think we have the Bunu East region as well bordering it, we have the Oti region, and then we have the Volta region. So this region, this eastern region, is in the middle of all these regions. We are looking at the political history, especially as far as the NPP and the NDC are concerned, and Gregory is straight away going to take us through the very first constituency, and I can see on our screens Akuapem South constituency. Greg.
Right, bless. So this is the constituency of one of the stalwarts of contemporary Ghanaian politics, Osebon Suamwa. He has been one-time deputy sports minister, one-time deputy local government minister. Until recently, he also served as the Minister of State at the local government ministry. So he's one stalwart when it comes to Ghanaian politics. Now, he is the incumbent member of parliament for the Akuapem South constituency. Now, bless, mind you, this constituency used to be the Ebri in Sanwem constituency until it was carved out of that constituency, and now there are two separate ones. Now we have Insam Aduajiri, and then we have Akuapem South. And so in 2012, that division was made in the constituency, and then Osebon Suamwa became its first member of parliament and has continuously served for it as its member of parliament from 2012, 2016, and 2020. So in the 2020 election, he garnered 21,247 votes, representing 65.4% of the votes. And then in 2016, he got 14,049 votes, representing 52.8%. So that's some 7,000 plus appreciation in votes from the votes garnered in 2016. Now, the NDC garnered 11,237 votes in the 2020 parliamentary election as far as the Akuapem South is concerned, and in 2016 they did 8,470. So they also had a net gain of votes, but it was in the north of 3,000 votes or in the north of 2,000 votes. But the NPP added over 7,000 votes. So as you can see on our screens, they have a net gain of 12.6% in votes. Now, as I said, bless, the numbers speak for themselves, because in 2012, Osebon Suamwa contested against William Into Buahin. He garnered 50% of the vote. That was the first time parliamentary and presidential elections were held in this constituency. And then in 2016, he followed through on that with a 3% increase on the vote he garnered in 2012, garnering 53% of the total vote cast. And then in 2020, he goes on to garner. So bless, this is a blue seat. From the 2020 elections, one can say it is a deep blue seat because of the margin with which the NPP won. And you know, the Akuapem enclave itself is an NPP area. You look at Okre, you look at Akuapem South and the North. These are ordinarily areas that the NPP sweep votes every time. And so owing to the numbers garnered in the last election, one can construe that this is a deep blues. Now, if you look at the presidential election as well, Nana Akufo-Addo garners 21,870. So it's just a little over 500 votes more than what the parliamentary candidates won over there. And then John Mahama of the NDC garners 10,108. So actually, John Mahama gets less votes, lesser votes than his PC garnered in that constituency. So it tells you the, how entrenched or how strong the NPP is as far as that seat is concerned.
I wanted to ask you a question. Do we have any data concerning the 2016 election and that particular constituency? Because if per the figures you gave for the 2020 election, according to you, we saw an appreciation of the votes. Why did we see an appreciation of the vote? Was it the fact that there was a higher voter turnout in the constituency?
I would ordinarily think that, because then the total voter population as at 2020 is 43,843. 43,843. Now, I'd like us to move over to the 2016 election and then check the data for that constituency as far as these elections are concerned. And bless, I would also like to take this opportunity to give credit to our sister station Peace FM Online for giving us the software or the data with which we are coming with this analysis. And so this is the 2016 election. Now, if we move over to the Eastern region, that's where we can find the Akuapem South constituency, which was, of course, carved out of the Ebri in Suhum constituency in the year 2012, giving it some, credence to also be able to elect parliamentary candidates to represent them in Ghana's parliament. And so this is from Plains North, Akim Odan, Akim Swedro. So this is Akuapem South.
Yeah.
These are the numbers. Now, in the last election, in the previous election, the numbers were 43,000. And so let's look at in the previous election. Let me see.
I think, yeah, so somewhere 43,000.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. For the previous election, that was the
43,843.
Yes. Now, so let's do 2016 and then see what the numbers say, because I would ordinarily think that there will be an appreciation in the role of voters in that constituency, and that would account for the appreciation in the votes of the NPP. And so,
and Greg, I'm asking this question because if you look at the 2020 general elections, generally, the New Patriotic Party dwindled in votes. They lost over 500,000 votes.
Yes.
So, my question is coming from, or stems from the fact that if they indeed lost 500,000 votes, then some of those 500 votes come from the Eastern region, which is a strong support base for the party. So, I mean, that's the reason for which I want to find out.
So I think when we did places like even Abrim, you could see that the votes with which the NPP won in 2016 dwindled. In fact, there were some, they just added a little over 200 votes, 300 votes for a constituency that is in the stronghold of the governing party. One would expect that they will have net gains over a certain number every year. And so I'm not quite too shocked with that, except to say that constituencies like Akuapem South and North are religious, especially on the mountaintop Okre and Akuapem North, South. These are places that the NPP would win. Even if the party is not doing too well, the NPP are more likely to win. And so this is the presidential, this is the parliamentary poll for Akuapem South in the eastern region of Ghana. And so I want us to go over there and check the voter roll, the numbers with which the NPP won. Okay, so Okay, so this is Akwa North, this is Suhum, this is Ayen Suano, Lower West Akim, Akim Odan, Akim Swedru, Achanse, Akwatia, Tiwa East. This is Nkoko, the mountain top.
Tiwa is where they showed the BB Kakra.
That was in 2004, right?
2004.
Yeah, I think it was a by-election. I quite remember that. Okay, so this is Akuapem North. This is Akuapem South. So we're still not getting the numbers. Yes, we're still not getting the numbers. So I'd like us to zoom in and then check the numbers properly. So Afram Plains, Krobo,
Akuapem South,
Okay, right. Now, so even if you check over here,
14,000.
Obiamwa got 14,000 in the last election, and so in the last election they had some 38,000 registered voters.
So about some 5,000.
Yes,
difference.
And then the party is,
appreciation.
the party is able to bank on that and increase their numbers, because if he garners 14,000 and then in the next election he garners 21,000, it tells you that he's garnered more than 6,000.
Yeah.
And the numbers are quite huge, especially when there's a 5,000 increase in the people who were enrolled onto that list to vote. Then it shows you that they even got more votes than persons who were newly registered to that role. And so that is how strong the NPP is in that seat. Ruben, I don't know if you would have any more words to add to this.
Yeah, it's quite strange that though the party has made gains in that particular region, the votes continue to dwindle. But despite that, I think they've been able to appreciate slightly, so far as 2020 was concerned, because from what we just saw in 2016, look at the margin by which Obiamwa won. Then 4 years later, his votes shot up astronomically because he was able to capitalize on the fact that, well, the party has gained popularity in this particular region, but we also need to do our homework well so that we can make sure that the party grabs majority of the seats in that region, which is why the story has always been told that way. It is not only reflected in terms of legislative elections, but the presidential as well. See the margin.
Yeah.
But someone would rightly put it, maybe it's because it's the president's home region.
Yeah.
And in the local parlance, we always see as a power of Yahweh. So nobody would disregard what comes from his or her own territory.
Right. We'll still stay with Greg. Greg, I'm sure there are 26 more constituencies that we have to do. Time is not too...
Quite some of them.
Much on our side.
I'd like our next stop to be the Akwatia constituency, because that is quite interesting, because the NDC and the NPP have all enjoyed some fortunes over there. Within that enclave, it finds itself in the middle of a very blue enclave. It is bordered by a very blue seat, but it seems not to be influenced by that. They always seem to, one way or the other, change their voting patterns when the need arises. So let's move to the Akwatia constituency. Akwatia constituency. Ruben, that is the constituency of Baba Jamal.
Yes.
He used to occupy that seat. And so in the 2020 election, the NPP garnered 18,742. Whilst in 2016, they garnered 21,433. So their votes decreased quite drastically. About 2,000 plus votes were lost in that constituency by the NDC. Now, the NDC garners 15,905 in 2016. So they lose that seat by quite a huge margin in 2016. But they make a comeback in 2020. And they garner 19,899 votes about 1,100 more than the NPP garnered in the election. So it was quite a close election, even if you look at the percentages with which each party garnered. Then the NDC garnered 51.5, the NPP 48.5. So that's more of a 3% increase. Now,
but okay.
So this is the distribution of the seats. Yes. Yeah. So 96 it was NDC, 2000, 2004 it became a constituency for the NPP. 2012 it comes to the NDC. 16 it goes back to the NPP, and then 20 it comes back to the NDC. So this is quite. You look at the breakdown: NDC, NPP, NPP, NDC, NPP, NDC now, and so that is the breakdown of the numbers as far as that constituency is concerned. Akwatia constituency, and it's quite a popular seat. Popular, in fact. There's talk that the NPP lost that seat because the then incumbent MP, Amasei Elizabeth Amasei Ruben, if I'm not wrong.
She's Mercy Edu
actually.
Yeah,
so where from that name?
But that was a moniker anyway.
Because I used to hear that name a lot.
Yeah.
She was quite popular in that constituency, and which led to her election as MP. She was able to snatch that seat from the NDC
luminary.
Yes.
And but there's something interesting that I think that we have skipped. What happened in 2008?
I think our in-house historian.
What happened in 2008? Because it appears that there
are no numbers.
There are no numbers at all. Because I'm seeing, I've been able to get onto the page here as well. And I'm looking at 2008. Kofi Asare contested for the NPP. Basil Ahiable for the NDC. No, Basil Ahiable as an independent candidate. Samuel Ejay, CPP. Baba Jama Mohammed, NDC. Akuapem Samuel, also an independent candidate. And there are no figures at all.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know why that is, but I'm sure we'll try and get we'll try and get into that and find out why there are no numbers for 2008. I don't know whether they didn't have parliamentary representation in that particular year. I don't know what the history says about that, but we'll try and then get into that.
So this is the presidential election. Nana Akufo-Addo wins. So even though the NDC's candidate wins the parliamentary election, the NPP's presidential candidate wins the election. He wins with 21,758 as against to the NDC's 19,181. And so it is quite telling that the NPP win with over 5,600 votes, but they tend to lose the parliamentary election by 1,001 votes. I mean, Ruben, what do you make of this?
Akwatia, I know it's one of the few diamond mining towns in the region, and exactly. They celebrated the Nchimbo festival. But the history will tell you that it's become a two-horse race between the two dominant parties. Sometimes you would expect the NDC to easily win. Then the NPP springs a surprise. There are instances where you would want the NPP to win, then the NDC also pulls a fast one on them. So from what we just heard or what we just gathered, it means that though the constituents in that region who are entrenched anyway would overwhelmingly endorse a candidate of their choice, it still goes to tell you that once it happens to be the home region of the president, there is absolutely no way they will let him down by voting for other candidates ahead of him. So the candidate who would represent them in parliament may not necessarily be elected, but the president or whoever is representing any of the parties in that constituency will come to the realization that once it happens to be a stronghold of the NPP, then the candidate is likely to win. And that has always been the narrative. That has always been the narrative. I don't see it changing anytime soon. I don't see it changing anytime soon.
Bless, do you have any words to add? Well, Bless, I quite remember that in 2008 there were some disturbances, some disputes regarding the elections in Akwatia. It led to Koforidua, the High Court in Koforidua, passing a judgment which was later annulled by the Supreme Court of Ghana. That is as far as I know. I was quite a young boy. I think in 2008 I was somewhere in class 5, class 6. But I was still an ardent reader of politics, and so I quite remember that time. Later in my readings, there were some disputations with that election, and I'm sure that's how we are seeing no voter statistics for that.
For the parliamentary.
Akwatia has been quite a disputed seat for some time, owing to the volatility of the area itself. It's a diamond mining area. It's at the center of an enclave which is considered a safe zone for the NPP, but they seem to be the only zone, the only seat in that zone that sometimes
the NDC
tend to.
Yes, I actually was about to chip in the diamond mining bits, because when you look at places where mining takes place, there's not too cosmopolitan, but it appears that people from diverse cultures, people from various regions are in those places. And so I'm not surprised that the NDC would win a seat, in places like Akwatia. But Greg, I want us to subject every constituency we go through to what's the name of this poster? The one who was with
Musa Dankwa.
Yes, Musa Dankwa's spin in the various constituencies. Yes. So, but you're looking at constituencies in the eastern region, and you get to realize that the margins are so huge, and so when you even take away
that, because he gave a buffer of
I think 15%. No, 30%.
Yes, and so
30%.
If your votes do not counter that, it means you're not able to absorb the pressure that arises from maybe apathy and other reasons. And that's why he's actually predicting that there will be massive loss of seats for the NPP. I mean, he's saying that he's anticipating. The last time I went through his post, he was saying the NPP might get 99 seats. That's less than 100 seats. That would be unprecedented. I mean, the last time Parliament was dominated by one party was in 92, where there was a boycott of the election because there were some issues that they felt emanated from the previous presidential election. I mean, bless in 92 there were 2 elections. They didn't have elections, or we didn't have elections like we're having now. They had 2 elections, mind you. The constitution had not come into effect. The constitution came into effect in 93 when the new republic was ushered. And so when the elections were held, there was one election for presidential, and then about 2 or 3 weeks later there was a parliamentary election. So the NPP were aggrieved by the result of the earlier election, which of course J.J. Rawlings won on account of some opaque ballot boxes, voter intimidation, some issues which they felt bordered on vote rigging, and so they contested the elections that were held in 92. And so because of that, all candidates from that party boycotted the parliamentary election. So it led to some alliances being formed, by the NDC predominantly had control over parliament, and then in 96 the NPP came on board and we saw them win some seats. And so bless, if the NPP is going to win 99 seats as Musa Dankwa is predicting, then that is going to be some overwhelming majority for the NDC. But bless, I don't know your take on that. I, for one, I've seen many people, researchers, condemn the advent of a hung parliament on account that even though it would have been an avenue to foster concessions between factions in the house, it ends up bringing about a lot of disputation, which sort of halts the progress of the house. And I've been in the house since 2021, and I've seen so many times that bills are brought and these are cut. But I believe that is also the only way that we can really hold the feet of the executive to accountability, because it is only when you have the other numbers on the side are so huge that you need to convince them on the viability of whatever bill or whatever policy you seek to implement in order to have their support on it. And so, Bless, I don't know what you think, but on my part, I believe that the closeness of the numbers will eventually do a lot of good for politics and governance in Ghana. I don't know what you think about that.
I mean, we share similar sentiments, but I don't think that unfortunately the 9th Parliament won't see that happen. I'm one of the people who concurs with Musa Dankwa's research into what may happen in the 2024 general elections. I don't see it being close, especially when it comes to Parliament. In the presidential elections, it may be, but when it comes to Parliament, I think that the difference is going to be quite huge. There are a lot of things that have made the current administration unpopular, and a hung Parliament is one of them. A hung Parliament is one of them. I mean, the very fact that we have a Parliament where the ruling administration and the opposition have equal numbers, only one parliamentarian separates them, an independent candidate who sympathizes with the NPP, and so decided that he was going to do business with the NPP. That when you put that aside, it's been a straightforward fight between the NDC and NPP as far as Parliament is concerned. But in the 2024, in the 2025 Parliament, or the Parliament that would be inaugurated on 7th January 2025, I don't see that happening. I don't see anything close.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for instance, I think we looked at Akwatia, where the NDC actually won. I don't see the NDC losing that seat in the upcoming polls. I seriously do not see it happening. What I foresee happening in Akwatia is the NDC appreciating their votes
by a certain margin.
Yes, by a certain margin, perhaps way more than what they were able to gain in the 2020 election. So I have enjoyed the 8th Parliament. I think I would say that it has been the most interesting in Ghana's political history, especially when it comes to the 4th Republic, because of the issues, the numbers, the very fact that the NDC decides to boycott something and then there's no headway. You understand? So and the NDC putting the ruling administration on its toes. I mean, we can decide to flay them for all the things that they haven't done. But also, if you look at some of the things that they've done, some of the bills that they've been able to stop in Parliament.
Cathedral, I think in 2023,
if
they succeeded in diverting the allocation for that project into some other thing which they felt near to the national interest.
But in the instance or in the situation where majority rules and the NPP has a convincing majority in Parliament, then that would have gone through. So I mean, we can chide them for their inactions or for some of the things that we expected them to do that they didn't do. But then again, also I can say that a hung Parliament has been extremely beneficial to the fortunes of this country. I don't know where we would have been looking at our current economic situation if we didn't have a hung Parliament. Greg.
Yeah, so Bless, as I said earlier, I believe that the numbers need to be very close to the extent that at every point in time there is some discussion between parties involved. I mean, if you look at some of the advanced countries, Parliament plays a key role, and it plays a key role because there is dialogue between the various. In fact, in some other countries like Germany, you have to form a coalition in Parliament before you can even get premiership. And so the interests of these other parties must be brought to the fore. You are not premier because your party is in power. You are premier because your coalition is dominant.
You've been able to convince
the other. And so there's always some consideration. There's always some discussion about national interest. And so I personally believe that if we always have the numbers close, we don't we don't need to have very close numbers every time, like 1 or 2, but even if the numbers are in the region of 5 and 6, and then you always need to consult and ensure that not only are the political divide on the same table, but the national interest is put before any other interest. That is the only way we can grow as a country. So even though the polls are saying the NPC might, I've seen another poll saying the NPP will win 18 more seats. Now we are seeing some polls, of course, coming up. But I would want us to continue on the tangent that we are. In fact, I would want an age where we see an executive president from a different party,
and
a speaker from a different party, as we have,
and
a majority from a different party.
Wow.
Yeah. That is only
that
when,
would be nice.
Yes, that is only when we will really see or have a feel of the overarching principle of legislative oversight, which was envisaged when our constitution was drawn up. And so, bless. These are the few words I would like to add. If there are none, I would like us to move on to one other. See, this is Etiwa East.
But before you go, you move on to Etiwa, where I want you to be crazy. let's go for a short breather. We return with so much more on Election Focus. Say now. In the past few days, a lot has been happening as far as this conversation is concerned. We do know for a fact that Labour, that had earlier on decided to embark on a sit-down strike where they will lay down their tools. They've rescinded that decision. A lot of people have read meanings into it, all of that, but we will continue to say that galamsey must be stopped now. I think we deserve to have some brief comments on galamsey before we proceed to Etiwa. Ruben, galamsey.
So it's become an evil which needs to be exorcised. And for me, I think that I'm a bit disappointed in organized labor, because I would have expected that once they decided to embark on a strike, they would draw government's attention to taking a firm and decisive action on ending this menace which has devastated our water bodies, farmlands, what have you. But some way, somehow, they've rescinded their decision. As I speak, UTAC is out there on the streets, and I hope that majority of Ghanaians will side with them. For galamsey, the least said about it, the better, because We've seemed to talk about it, but absolutely nothing seems to be done. And I think that it's about time we depoliticize the issue of galamsey. Look at the devastation, the impact it's having on the health and longevity of Ghanaians. And we sit here and nothing seems to be done about it. Actions, they say, must be backed by words. And I think it's high time duty bearers, they tackle this menace with bulldog tenacity so that it becomes a thing of the past. If we would have to repeal the LI, which bans prospecting in forest reserves, so be it. Yesterday there was a circular from the Information Ministry that soldiers will be deployed and they will collaborate with small-scale miners. They targeted those who mine, along the rivers, But I don't think that's enough. We need to move beyond that and deal with this menace once and for all.
Right. Talk about measures that are being implemented or put in place to put an end to the canker. The president, like you said, like you mentioned about that communique, yes, he actually issued that directive that the military be deployed into these mining areas and then bring mining on water bodies to an immediate halt. Also, there's a directive from the president that people mining in forest ought to stop. And then also that legislative instrument that allowed for prospective mining. I understand as soon as Parliament reconvenes,
it will be repealed.
It will be repealed. But let me also take the thoughts of Gregory Amoah on this devastating issue. And he would admit that there are some members of Parliament, people he see on a daily basis, who are deeply engaged in galamsey. We won't name names, by the way. Greg,
that's an allegation anyway.
I think we have belabored this point over the past few weeks and years as well, and rightly so, because this menace goes to the root of livelihood in Ghana. I mean, water is life, and so if we are seeing such wanton destruction of water bodies amongst others in Ghana, I think it is only right that every Ghanaian adds their voice to this call, and that's why it is quite sad seeing groups like Labour, who would ordinarily be leading this charge, because they are one of the apolitical bodies in Ghana, the bodies who take steps, and then every person knows that they are doing this not on party lines, but they are doing this in the collective interest of the working class in Ghana. And so it is quite sad that we are seeing such steps. I would have wanted some brave actions to be taken, and then for government's hand to be pushed in order to take necessary actions to ban the menace now. Because I mean, as we speak, people are mining in water bodies today. If there are checks, you'd find that people are mining water bodies today. And so we are not going anywhere as far as this menace is concerned. Government is only dragging its feet because it is only some 58 days to an election, and then so it is afraid as to what implications it would have on its support base in these areas that the menace is going on. But I mean, the mere fact that we are even politicizing these issues shows how drastic the issue has become. And that's why groups like Labour should have been trailblazing the call for government to take drastic actions to halt this menace. And I would like to commend UTAG for being brave amongst the pack and sticking to their principle that government needs to do more than it is doing, because we have deployed armed men. We have set up interministerial committees.
These are not new measures.
These are measures we've seen since the very inception of this government's term in office. This government's 8-year term in office. I mean, and so what's new? Every Ghanaian has a right to be skeptical as far as government plans in dealing with this menace is concerned, and that's why many Ghanaians are calling that a temporal ban should be placed on this, so that we at least halt or block the canker as it is, and then find some very forward-thinking measures to deal with this, and so that even if the ban is lifted again, we know that we have solved an issue that will salvage Ghana in the years to come, because as it stands, bless, last time I took a trip to Cape Coast, and then the Wager Dam is slowly, the river around that side, which feeds Accra as far as the supply of water is concerned, is slowly turning brown, and that tells you that the menace is slowly having its effect on Accra. I've heard many people say that if you are protesting such a menace, why do it in Accra? Why do it over here? Now they are seeing the evidence, because the rot is getting to Accra, and it will affect every part of the country if we do not heed all the red flags that have been raised and find proactive, pragmatic measures that will not only halt the rot but also spearhead a new age of sustainable mining practices in Ghana, which will keep or conserve Ghana's resources. So bless, that is what I have to add to these calls.
Right. Let's Greg, I'm staying with you. We are moving straight to Etiwa East constituency. We are looking at the results, and you can see 2020 from 2020 alone, 2012, 2016, 2020. This has been a seat that the New Patriotic Party has won resoundingly. Greg, take us through.
Right. So this is Etiwa East constituency. It used to be one constituency, Etiwa, and in 2012 it was divided into two, so it became Etiwa West and then Etiwa East. Now it was previously occupied by one Kwesi Ano, if I'm not wrong. Kwesi Ano, he died in 2010, so he won the Etiwa seat in 2008, and then he passed on unfortunately in 2010. And then it led to the infamous by-election, which saw Kwesi Akwata succeeded to become MP for Etiwa. So as at 2008, it was Etiwa, and then in 2010 there was a by-election because of the death of the MP. I think he was on an official trip to London, and he died over there, and so there was that by-election there. And so in 2012 it was carved into two. Then we had Etiwa West and then Etiwa East. So Etiwa East was occupied by one of the famous women of Ghanaian politics. She's quite likable. She used to be deputy finance minister. Now I think she's a minister of state at the finance ministry. Abena Asare. In 2020, she garnered 21,175 votes, as against the NDC 6,495. So if I say she is quite popular, she'll be telling, because 21,175 as against 6,495. That is quite some margin.
That's an annihilation.
Yes, total. And then in 2016, she garnered 17,399 as against 4,962 by the NDC. And so it tells you that she keeps on appreciating and widening the gap. I mean, even though there was a net loss, the margin is quite huge. And this is the confirmation of the numbers. 21,175 as against 6,000. That's quite some number. So there's a population of 35,378 voters over there. And so she came on board in 2012 after the constituency was carved into two, and then she won that seat. And so bless, this is how the Etiwa East Etiwa East seat has been voting. This is the presidential election, and the voting trends are almost the same. Now, Nana Akufo-Addo garnered 19,769. So it tells you he garnered less than what Abena Asare garnered. John Mahama got 7,500 more than what his PC also garnered. So it tells you the popularity of Abena Asare as far as that seat is concerned. Yeah, right. I'll come over to you.
Right. We do not expect anything different in the upcoming polls, except that what I expect is that, of course, the NPP would still maintain that seat, but I don't expect it to be with the same margins, or I do not expect an appreciation of votes in that regard. That would actually surprise me. And so they are still going to win it by some margin. It's going to be huge, but not as huge as we saw in the 2020 elections. What constituency do we have next?
So now we are going over to Etiwa West, that is the constituency of former Roads
Minister
Kwesi Amoakwata. He is also quite popular in that area. He garnered 19,036 as against the NDC 6,250. In 2016, he garnered 16,980 as against the NDC's 4,519. So he also tells you that he is quite popular in that area. So Etiwa Yao Ben in Dako, 96 NPP, he is able to retain that seat in 2000. In 2004, he goes for a third term, and then Kwesi Ano Ankama comes on board in 2008, and then but unfortunately he passes on in 2010. So there's a by-election. Amakwata is elected as MP for Etiwa. Then Etiwa, he retains the seat in 2012, retains the seat in 2016, and then goes on to win again in 2020. But this year he will not be on the ballot. He has bowed out, and so he will not be the face on the ballot as far as the NPP is concerned. But it is expected that the NPP would still retain that seat due to the popularity of the party in that region.
Ruben, do you share my sentiments that the NPP would win seats like that, but then it's not going to be with the same huge margins that we saw in the 2020 general polls?
Yeah, so predictably, nothing will change.
Yeah.
The status quo will still be maintained, but it depends on the appreciation. You know, we are not going to see or witness what occurred some years back, because a lot of things seem to be trickling in, and it will not inure to their benefit, but they will still go ahead and win those seats.
Right, Greg. The next constituency that
so
we should be looking at.
We should still stay around that part. We should go to Fanteakwa North. Fanteakwa North, and these are all religious seats for the NPP. Fanteakwa North, and so this Kwabena Amankwa Esiama, he wins with 11,375 as against the NDC's 10,996. So in that enclave, this is one of the closest elections over there, and I'm sure that is what accounted for
fine margins.
Yes,
just about some 380.
Yes,
399 votes difference.
Yes, and this is the constituency of the chairman of the Education Committee of Parliament. And if you see the numbers in an area that is considered an NPP enclave, it is not shocking that he lost the primaries because of voter confidence. And I'll tell you why. The presidential election will tell a different story, and so you know that the numbers are close, not because of the I don't want to put it that way, but not because of the popularity of the NDC. Of course, the NDC did very well in that election, but apathy against the person who the party presented as its PC in that constituency. And so I was not shocked when I learned that he lost the primaries. In fact, the vice chair of the committee is also the MP for Fanteakwa South. He also lost.
Wow.
And so it tells you that enclave, there was some dissatisfaction with the NPP as far as that zone is concerned. And so I'm not shocked that the vice chair also lost. Bless your comment on that.
So had it not been the fact that you gave or you brought out that analysis or that revelation that look, the voters in the 2020 general elections did not like the candidate that the NPP presented, I would have straight away put in Musa Dankwa's spin. You know.
Now, bless, something interesting is here. Now, 12,529.
Yeah.
NDC 10,742.
So it may not all be down
so
to...
there's a dissatisfaction with the party.
It may not all be down to... But can we see in previous elections... Well, I wish we had data for previous elections
so I
straight
want us
away.
to go as far back as 2016. Now, the NPP garners 11,000. The NDC garners 9,000. Now, that's in
2016.
Yes.
So it's always a close call.
But if you look at 96, it was quite a huge margin.
Yeah.
In 2000, very close, very fine margins, very, very fine margins over there. In fact, the NPP
the NDC actually won in 96.
Yes,
That was
quite a huge margin. Yes,
right?
quite a huge margin.
The NDC actually won in
the
96.
NPP come to win it from them, but
chairman.
if you look at the 2000
And
margin,
4,
the NPP won with quite some fine margins.
Yeah.
Very, very fine margins. And then in 2004 they widened the gap. 2008 they widened the gap. In 2012 they start closing the gap again.
Yeah.
So it comes very close. It widens again in 2016, and then it starts closing up again in 2020. And then so this year, that is one interesting area I'll be looking very interesting, because this is a blue. If you look at the margins from 2000 to the last election, the NPP has consistently won, but the numbers do not stay. They don't flatline. There are some areas you look and it's either the NPP in this same region, it's either the NPP appreciate or they flatline. So they are along the banks with which they won.
Yeah.
But over here, the NDC actually wins, and then they lose by some very fine margins, and then the gap opens and closes, and closes. And 2012 is one of the closest we've seen in recent times, and then last election also quite close. And so, bless your take. If you want to bring in your formula of global analytics,
Seriously, if I'm putting Musa Dankwa's the
buffer over there.
Yes, if I'm putting it there, then it means that the NPP probably may lose that seat in the upcoming polls. And I mean, if the NPP loses seats like that, then
that would be telling.
That would be telling, especially for things to come, or for what to expect in the other constituencies. But let's go to Fanteakwa South. Is that what we are looking at now?
Yes. Fanteakwa South. So that is the border seat for the SWAL seat we just dealt with. And so in 2020, the NPP garners 10,565. The NDC garners 5,181. 2016, the NPP garners 11,274. NDC 5,726. And so this tells quite a different story, where the NPP are quite entrenched over there, but that does not stop Kofi Ajekum, vice chairperson of the Education Committee of Parliament, from losing the primaries. He lost, and then he will not be on the ballot. And so, Bless, what do you make of the dynamics between these seats? Because it looks like on the northern side of the enclave, the NPP are not so strong. The NDC keeps closing the gap to the extent that even in the presidential election, it was just over 1,000+ votes. In the parliamentary polls as well, the same. But over here, there seems to be quite some margin, over 4,000 votes margin between the NPP's candidates and the NDC's candidates.
I think, I mean, for me, it's a matter of geography. If you take the region, for instance, the people that are deep in the region, going to the middle, I think they seem to have a bigger sway towards the NPP than any other political party. But those on the banks, those on the periphery, I mean, those on the borders, I mean, that's because you have people living in other regions that or people from other regions that may be close by in that enclave, and so that for me perhaps also affects the outcome of the results.
Well, I agree with you, because if you look at areas like Asujaman, areas like the Krobos, the NDC win over there, even Afram Plains, and then the Midlands, down to the bordering towns with Greater Accra region, and even at the hilltops, Kwewu and Ebri, Ekropon, the NPP is quite entrenched over there. And that's why I made the earlier comment that in this region, actually, seats that the NDC are expected to win, they continuously win. Seats that the NPP are expected to win, they continuously win. There's no middle ground, except to say Ayensuang, which unceremoniously swung, and then Akwatia, which from time to time swings between the NPP and the NDC. All other seats are expected to stay they are on most occasions. And so the Eastern region, it makes for quite interesting reading, very interesting. But bless, I think the NDC are making inroads in that region, because if you look at the Fanteakwa area, that is an area that is deeply entrenched in the NPP, at the heart of the region, closer to the Etiwas and then the Buakwas. One would ordinarily think that these are areas that the NPP should be winning because of their proximity to more or less the heart of the party in the region. And then they go on to have such result. I mean, the NDC will be shocked if the NPP should make such inroads anywhere. For example, you take a place like Ho, and then the NPP keep closing the gap, or the NPP are winning seats over there. That would be quite shocking, because it shows that your hold over the region is winning, and you need to go back to the drawing board and plug whatever holes are accounting for these issues. And so, bless, without wasting my time, let's go to Lower Manya Krobo. That is one of the 8 seats occupied by
the NDC
region. And so in 2020, NPP garners 22,029 votes, and NDC garners 26,991. So that's some 3,000 plus votes more than what the NPP won with. In 2016, 19,383, the NDC garners 19,710. And so in 2016, the votes were very close. It was very, very close. Yeah. But in 2020, NDC manages to, appreciate the votes to some 3,000 plus, and it shows that they are continuing their hold over that region. So this is Ebenezer Oklete Telabi. He comes on board and he is able to, appreciate the numbers with regards to. So he contested for the first time in 2012. He retains the seat in 2016 and continues to win in 2020. And so that is quite interesting. Now the NDC has won this seat from 96.
MTN, Michael Telnyaun.
Yeah, Michael Telnyaun. Yeah.
And so it is one of the seats that the NDC would win. Also because of the Dangbe.
Yes. I was coming to that. The NDC, the
NDC seems to have a stronghold on that. Because even in the capital, look at the Pram-Prams, the Dangbe areas. These are areas the NDC win.
I have a certain analogy to that, if I should say. I mean, you look at these areas, they have a certain proximity to the Volta region.
Yes. In fact, and not just proximity in geographical boundary and proximity in culture. Yes. Exactly.
You see that happening in those areas. And so it doesn't surprise me at all. The NDC is very, very popular in those areas.
Right. So let's try to do another green seat. There are not many green seats in the region, and so forgive us if we are taking some time to find them. This is a very green, this is a very blue region except for some 80. So this is Upper Manya Krobo. Upper Manya Krobo. And so that is Bismarck Nyakote, if my memory serves me right. So he garners 14,967 as against the NPP's 12,307. And in 2016, that seat actually swung. It swung to the NPP. The NPP garners 13,920. The NDC garners 10,544. And so this was also a religious seat for the NDC from 96. And then they lose that seat in 2016. But they're able to do their homework, amass their ranks, and come back, make a comeback in 2020. And so this is the breakdown of the numbers: 14,967 as against 12,307. And so Solomon Tekpe wins in 96. There's Stephen Kwao Amwano, 2000, 2004, 2008, and then in 2012, Jeff Kavienu retains that seat again for the NDC. And then Jeff loses the seat in 2016 to Joseph Tete, and he also loses the seat to Bismarck Tete Nyako. And so interesting reading. The NDC, I expect them to again win the seat, except for some very drastic machinations that might, flip that race open. Ruben, your comment on that?
Machinations on the part of who?
The NPP, because it's an NDC seat except for 16. And so if we have a repeat of the operandum with which the NPP snatched that seat, and then that could spell trouble, especially when the numbers are not so huge. If you have such a buffer, anything can happen.
So in 2016, the NPP took many seats from the
NDC, a lot of seats.
Yeah, and that was the end of an 8-year cycle of the National Democratic Congress. Remember, the party was so unpopular. Akufo-Addo came in with so much popularity, and so yes, I expect that to happen this time around.
Yes,
I expect the same to happen this time around. So we may have seats that we may label as blue seats.
Typical blue seats.
Typical, not deep blue seats, but they are blue seats. They've been won. Yes, they've been won by the NPP throughout the Fourth Republic, but the numbers are not so huge. I see the NDC
the buffers are over there.
Yes, I see the NDC winning those seats.
So I had this opinion grounded in the fact that the NDC won major seats even though they lost the election. And so you have many of their MPs not being part of government and so not being able to take development to their constituencies. And that's how come we are seeing that every constituency occupied by the NPP is now occupied by a person in government actively. Most of them were given appointments, and so they have leverage to bring development of some sort to the constituency. And so I thought that maybe the NDC will also end up losing a few seats, especially seats that were blue seats, traditional blue seats that they flipped. Some of them, and it may be very few, it may be 1, 2, or 3, but they might also end up losing some of these seats because they are traditional seats which were won because of some agitations among the rank of the party. And that's why you even find that even though the NDC-PC won that seat, John Mahama lost the election. So it tells you that it's not the popularity of the NDC, but it is some ramblings along the party line in that constituency that led to them losing. And so those seats will be keenly contested, but the NDC will also end up flipping seats because of apathy in certain areas that the NPP win, but the NPP are not winning with huge numbers. And so if there's any apathy, that leads to a reduction in vote, and then we might see the NDC come on board and then do well in these areas.
So if you take what is happening in Suhum, for instance, is it likely that looking at the incumbent who has decided to contest as an independent candidate, it will play to the advantage of the NDC because it's a typical NPP seat. The former Chief of Staff, Julius Debra, once contested. Margaret Ansa, alias Mago, once contested. Even the last elections, it was Amanda Ochre Kotia. So I foresee that if what the incumbent is doing is anything to go by, if the NPP doesn't put its house in order, it is likely that this time round, the pendulum of victory is likely to swing in favor of the NDC. You can't also rule out Fanteakwa North and South. A bit of bickering, a bit of rambling and wrangling within the party's hierarchy.
Right, so
means that they are likely to lose those seats.
I said all these things that happen. Predicting elections is not an easy thing to do.
No.
Because we may consider all these things, bickering and all of that, but then again also is gerrymandering.
Exactly.
Then again also is gerrymandering.
Exactly.
People are busing persons from other constituencies that have strongholds.
They are machinations.
So
machinations.
It's not going to be an easy call. Even if you think that the margins are so fine,
anything can happen.
Anything could happen. We do not have so much time. We have just 18 minutes more until we close. So if you can quickly run through the remaining constituencies.
Okay, so let's do Suhum That's one of the interesting areas, and then we can end over there. So in 2020, the NPP garners 34,049 votes as against the NDC's 19,192. And then in 2016, it's 25,000 as against 20,762 by the NDC. And so the NPP appreciated their numbers in 2020, but the margin is also quite huge over here. But something interesting is happening because Kwadwo Asante is the incumbent MP for that area. He loses the primaries, and as aggrieved as he is, he opts to go independent. And so now on that in that constituency there will be Frank Esiedu-Bequin contesting on the ticket of the NPP, and you have Kwadwo Asante who won with 34,049 votes contesting as an independent candidate. And then the NDC is also bringing one Prince Ado onto, yes. Now bless, I would think because mind you bless, Kwadwo Asante, this man Frederick Opariansa, I think he was a stalwart in the campaign of the DMB, the vice president. Now he had occupied the seat from 2004 to 2016, and then he loses the. In fact, the likes of Brian Echampon and others have come to contest against him, but they did not succeed. And so it tells you how strong he is. He loses to Asante, and then Asante goes on to lose the primaries. And so this candidate, it will make for very interesting reading. Whatever impact is he, if he's able to even cut 10,000 out of the vote of the NPP to his candidature, it could spell trouble for the party coming this election. And so that Suhum will make for some very interesting reading as far as the dynamics in the eastern region are concerned.
And interestingly, the party's candidate, Franklin Esiedu-Bequin, is the Director of Political Affairs at the Office of the Chief of Staff.
Okay.
At the presidency. So it will be very, very interesting. Though the NDC's candidate, Prince Kwadwo Ado Tebiri, is a political newcomer, I foresee Suhum. That's
and especially Ruben, and especially if we are to avert our minds, the NPP seems to have some bad luck with incumbent MPs switching sides.
Okay.
We saw that with Fomina, where the party sought to oust the incumbent MP. He was aggrieved, but he felt he still had the support of the base. And in fact, there are rumors that the Queen Mothers and the chiefs of the area advised him to go independent. And then he goes and wins that seat. Yeah. And that was one of the issues that almost crippled the NPP in parliament. And so research has shown that the party is not always, it's always replete with luck when it comes to incumbent MPs going overboard. Kumewu was another issue when the vote between Kwekudua and Philip Baswa was very close, very, very, very close. And that's how come even at the by-election, Kwekudua came, and then there was another independent candidate with the same name, with the same, so that the party could dilute the support of Dua. So the NPP have always had issues with incumbent MPs being aggrieved and then jumping ship. And so Suhum will make for very interesting reading. Very, 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 very interesting reading.
Right. What do we have next?
And so bless, our very last seat should be another interesting seat. Very interesting.
That's a green seat?
Yellow Krobo.
Yellow Krobo region.
Yellow Krobo. Okay. Right. And so we have the NPP 20,828 as against the NDC 26,165 in 2020. NPP 15,178 in 2016. 23,507 in 2020. This is in 2016 for the NDC. Now this is a religious green seat from 96 straight to 2020. The NDC have won. consistently. And the margins are quite on their side, except for 2000, where the margins for the parliamentary elections were quite close, not even too close, but I mean, that was their lowest in recent.
I think an independent candidate did something.
Yes.
Or a party,
someone who was in the race.
Maybe the CPP or some other party did quite well.
Yes. And so the Magnus Kofi Amoate, I think he's now counsel to the Speaker of Parliament. I think so. He's one of the people advising him. So he was two-time MP for that area. Raymond Tewia, two-time MP. Daniel Tekpete. It seems like no one has also gone for 3 terms on that seat. And so that also makes for some interesting. I expect the NDC to retain that seat because of the margins and also because of the fact that it is a green seat. Ruben, I don't know if you have any contrary remarks to that.
So predictably, unless the inevitable occurs.
Machinations again, right?
Of course. And that's what makes our politicking dirty and ugly. Because we want to resort to unfair and unorthodox means to get what we want at all costs. And there are instances where you have violence and intimidation characterizing our elections. It makes the politicking too dirty and ugly, and I think it doesn't bode well for an embryonic democracy like Ghana.
Right. Bless.
Right. It's been a very interesting and insightful conversation here, trying to analyze the politics of the Eastern region. The Eastern region has been extremely pivotal to Ghana's politics. Ruben, in his initial submission, spoke about the fact that they were at the forefront of forming Ghana's first ever political party, the United Gold Coast Convention, the UGCC for that matter. The current president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, that is his hometown.
He's a former MP in that.
MP, yes, he has been a member of parliament, being a former minister in the Eswal Kufuor administration, currently the president of the Republic of Ghana, 2-term president. He would be proud of that achievement. And so, I mean, you can't underestimate the Eastern region as far as Ghana's political history as it was and as it is now currently is concerned. They've been generous to the New Patriotic Party in times past, and we don't see that changing in the upcoming elections. We expect same, except that from where I sit, from where Ruben also sits, and perhaps, I don't know if Greg would share in our sentiments, but we think that despite the fact that the NPP would win the region, it won't be with the same huge margins as was seen perhaps in 2016, perhaps in 2016. And so yeah, we expect that to change. I'll take final words. I'm starting with Ruben.
Yes, like you rightly alluded to, it's the home region of His Excellency the President, and he's joined the likes of late President Rawlings and Kufuor. He served 8 terms, and now
2 terms.
8 years. 8 years. So hopefully he will relinquish your seat power on time in January 2025. And religiously, I mean, from time immemorial, they've always reposed confidence in the NPP. So moving into 2024, I'm not sure they would win majority of seats in the region, but the margins will diminish. It wouldn't be what we've always seen in years gone by. And I think that is where perhaps the NDC can also make some significant inroads. But there are some of the constituencies in that region which will be keenly monitoring to see the outcome of elections in those constituencies as to whether they would, be up for grabs so far as the 2 dominant parties are concerned.
Greg?
Right, so Bless, as I would ground my comment on Ruben's and yours as well, I don't expect the NDC to win that region, but in addition to their 8 seats, I expect them to make some surprises again.
Around 11 seats or 12 seats.
Yes, I think the only place that will be quite shaky will be Ayensuano. It will be keenly contested, quite keenly. Aside from that, I expect the NDC to do well, even in the presidential election, owing to some of the numbers we saw John Mahama win, and then with the NPP presenting a new face, even though he has been vice president, he has never been on the ballot. John Mahama has been on the ballot since 2012. He came up against someone who has been on the ballot.
In as much as we may attempt to detribe, if there's any such word, in as much as we may attempt to detribe the candidacy of Dr. Bawumia, he is not an Akan. I mean, we can have that conversation and say that it doesn't matter where you come from and all of that. But it actually plays a role too. That, yes, you know, that people would have a certain affinity towards someone they believe comes from their region, other than somebody from a whole different place altogether. We are one country, I mean, and all of that, but we can't run away from that. We can't run away from that conversation.
Yes, and so that would be very interesting. The NDC, I think, will make some inroads in that region, both in the presidential polls and then the race for parliament as well. I envisage that they will make some inroads over there. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, Ruben Ado. Thank you very much, Gregory Amwa, to our viewers who took time off your busy schedules to watch us, to give us your attention this afternoon. We are extremely grateful for your time. Election Focus comes your way again tomorrow. Tomorrow we are doing the campaign trail. Yep, we'll be bringing you campaign documentaries of all the political parties. Name them: the NDC, the NPP, Movement for Change. Kwame Osudanso is in the central region right now. The National Democratic Congress. Today is 10th.
Yes.
Yes. So on Saturday, 12th of October, the former president would also take his campaign to the Upper West region of Ghana. So we'll be going to places like Jirapa, to Sisala West, Sisala East, and all these areas in the Upper West region. And so bringing you up to speed with whatever he says, everything that happens as far as that campaign is concerned. He's actually also concluded with his tour of the Northeast region, which is the home region of his closest adversary or contender. That is Dr. Bawumia. And so, we'll bring you all of that here on Election Focus. But I want to thank you so much. Do have a pleasant afternoon. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.